Okay. So, my name is Clark. Some of you might know me. This is the first time I'm trying this, but essentially I am going to talk about a topic today, and that's going to be sort of a combination of CGMs, which are continuous blood glucose monitors, and accuracy of monitors, because there's been some questions about these things. So let's kind of look at some of the things I've seen real quick. So let's look at this one right here. This person got a CGM. She got it looks like a Freestyle Libre from this group called a group that can send it to you. And if you look down here, she has a low, and there's some confusion about that. This person feels that they had pretty good accuracy with their CGM, and yeah, they will get good accuracy sometimes, but we're going to talk about that. This person feels like they're kind of useless because their blood sugar and finger sticks is consistently 100s, and the CGM shows it in the 70s. This person has a lot of frustration because it seems like they're seeing blood sugars go up and down. They are type 2 diabetic, and they're having some frustrations with what happens with dawn phenomenon when they first get out of bed. This person's trying to get a CGM, so I'm just kind of going through some of the different stuff. I've seen people asking. This is kind of a cool post. This person basically got a CGM, and they saw their blood sugar skyrocket after a certain meal, and they did a really good analysis and whatnot, but they saw the effects. So we'll kind of go through some of these and talk about what we want to see here. Okay, so with these CGMs, so here's some things I want to talk about with them. So first off, what is a CGM? It's a continuous blood glucose monitor. I have a video right now. I'll just show you. It's basically, I've used the Libre, I've used the Dexcom. I'm showing the Libre in the video. The Libre is the one from Abbott. It's a little bit less accurate. In the Dexcom, I didn't have the actual, I just connected to the app on my phone, but this is the sensor, essentially. And it basically keeps monitoring your blood sugar over time. And some people like it because they find it easier. They feel like they don't have to prick their finger and whatnot, and that's appealing to a lot of people. But the problem is really the accuracy. And so accuracy is a topic we want to talk about real quick. So first off, what is accuracy? So let's get a little statistics real quick. On the image, here we go. Accuracy versus precision. So a lot of us know this intuitively, but we need to always review these topics. So on the top left, we have what's called low accuracy and low precision. Let's go to the bottom right real quick. So high accuracy and high precision, whenever you measure anything, means that it's accurate, meaning that whenever you measure something, it's pretty much right near the target. Like let's say you're trying to measure your blood sugar, and let's say your blood sugar was 100. Ideally, all your measurements would be right at 100 if it was ideal. But the problem is that everything that we use in life to measure some number has some sort of built-in inaccuracy, okay? So we need to account for that. So ideally, you have a tool that would every time give you right around 100 with your blood sugar meter, right? So that'd be high accuracy and high precision. So where are these two things different? We got to understand what is precision, what is accuracy. So over here, we have an example of something that is decently accurate but not precise. So basically, precision is how consistently do you get your measurements to be near the target. So if you look at this one, every dart that was thrown at this dartboard is trying to hit the bullseye. So it's decently accurate, but they're not very precise, meaning they don't consistently hit in the same spot. Now let's go to the opposite side. This is what we call low accuracy, high precision. This person is nailing this one spot over here in the dartboard pretty precisely. They keep hitting it, but it's not accurate, meaning it's not near the real goal of the bullseye. For a blood sugar measurement, imagine your real blood sugar was 100, and every time you took it on the meter, it was 120. So, let's say every time you took it was 120. That would be high precision, meaning it's always 120, but it's not accurate, meaning it's not hitting the real blood sugar. Now, realistically, our blood sugar meters, the blood meters, are closer to what's down here, which is high accuracy, but there's better accuracy but lower precision, meaning that the blood sugar is typically within the range. So let's say your blood sugar is 100 and you keep testing, you get like 105 and then 95 and bounces back and forth there. You're ballparking around the true blood sugar, but sometimes you're not getting as ideal precision. And then the top left is the worst case scenario. No precision, no accuracy. Okay. So this is important because we need to understand this in terms of the CGMs. So I want to pull this up. This is talking about the Freestyle Libre. So this is a study. I'll scroll up if people want to look for it, but improved accuracy of 14-day factory calibrated Freestyle Libre system with new glucose algorithm. So this is a chart that basically shows the accuracy of the Freestyle Libre. It has the blood sugars listed over here on the left-hand side, and the top is basically how close was the blood sugar. Was it within plus or minus 15, meaning let's say the blood sugar was truly 100, that would be, was it above, was it up to 115 or down to 85, or was it up or down 15%? And then it goes up to 20, then 40. And there's a key part with this study. If you read through it, what they say is that for blood sugar 70 above, they basically tested if it was within 15%, or the percentage basically. For blood sugars below 70, they did the plus or minus number. So it's just a straight number, so plus or minus 15. So this is important. So let's start off with the really wide range. So plus or minus 40 or 40%. So that would mean that if your blood sugar was 100, this would be, and you tested with the CGM, it would detect a number that was plus 40, so it'd be 140, or minus 40, which would be 60, right? So if we go through about 99, 98, 90, 100% of the time, it got within the value based on these blood sugar numbers. Okay, so basically, whenever you test your blood sugar with a Freestyle, it's pretty much always within 40 points. We can see the accuracy goes down a little bit as we get tighter range, so plus or minus 20%. We can see the accuracy start to wane around the 70. But here's what I want to talk about right here, this plus or minus 15 or 15%. So you're going to know something odd in the data. You'll see that above a blood sugar of 350, it's decently accurate. 94.5% of the time, the blood sugar will be within 15%. As we go down, we see this trend where it becomes less accurate. And then we get to 70 to 180, and it's 76.4% accuracy. And then all of a sudden the accuracy improves at a lower number. And you might say, oh, that's cool, right? Well, that's not, you might be misguided in what's going on here. So if you read the study specifically, what they say is that for a blood sugar below 70, they switched to a plus or minus 15. So all of a sudden it looks more accurate, but you have to understand the statistics here. So I actually created this Excel sheet to kind of understand what's going on. So I compared this to the Contour Next, and I'm going to show a study, but basically the Contour Next is one of the most accurate blood sugar meters, and the accuracy is plus or minus, it's either plus 10% or minus 11%. So your blood sugar ranges are actually pretty tight there. That's one of the best meters you can get. The international standard for blood glucose meters is it needs to be at least plus or minus 15%. The Contour is one of the best ones, Contour Next, because it's plus or minus about 10 or 11%.
Okay, so let's look at the Contour Next. So plus or minus 10% is basically about 6 points if we look at the Contour Next. So 6 points, that's pretty tight, right? And if we're trying to get our triggers, that's pretty good because you want to be relatively close to your trigger to be accurate. But if we look at plus or minus 15, which is what the Libra does, that's actually about a 25% error here. So what I did was I took, 15, and then relative to 60 is about 25%, so 1.25, or down 25%. So I won't get into the statistics too much if you don't understand, but basically what I see here is that your error, if your true blood sugar is 60, and you could be plus 15 or minus 15 on your Libre, that's actually an error of 25%, which is pretty dramatic, right? The Contour Next is about 10%, 10 or 11. So the difference there is you're only about 6 points off. And it gets even worse the lower you go, right? If you had a blood sugar of 50 and you were plus or minus 15, that's actually a 30% error if you look at these numbers. Basically, if you go plus 15 off of a blood sugar of 50, you'll get a 65. If you go down 15, you'll get a 35. That's 1 point. So 65 divided by 50 is equal to 1.3, which basically means that 1.3, that 0.3 means you have 30% error. And then on the flip side, the 35%, if you do the same math, you get 0.7, which is 30% off of 1, which means you have 30% error. So that's one of the problems. So that's why the blood sugar monitor is a little bit better. Now, the Dexcom, if you go through the studies, it's slightly more accurate. So if you look over the overall accuracy at, I think 20% was 92.8 for the Freestyle Libre. So here's a study that looks at the Dexcom, continuous accuracy over 10 days with factory calibrated continuous glucose monitoring system in children and adults. and I'll highlight right here. This is the Dexcom, basically. I believe is the Dexcom 6, which is their most recent one. This is from 2018, so it could have been the Dexcom 5. But if we look here, the overall accuracy for plus or minus 20% was 93.9%. So if we go back to the Libre, it was 92.8. If we look at this aggregate plus or minus 20%. So the Dexcom is slightly more accurate. And even in my own use of it, I did notice that the Dexcom was slightly more accurate. So let's go over here. So where did I get the number for the contours accuracy? It's from this study. This is the most recent one I found, but basically 2018, they do investigations of accuracy of 18 marketed blood glucose monitors. And you pull up the study, and basically here is the money graph. I'll zoom in a little bit. But basically they go through a bunch of different blood sugar monitors, and they rank them in terms of accuracy. The Contour Next being the top one, and you can see basically the plus or minus error, basically. So the lower limit, in other words, it can be plus 10, minus 11. And if we look over here, it's the absolute boundary, meaning 11 was the biggest. And we go through the meters and see as the accuracy gets less precise, or less accuracy. Oh my goodness gracious! Sunlight's coming in. So let's turn it this way. Okay, sorry, sunlight blinding everyone. Okay, cool. So this is important. So this is why we want to use the most accurate tools possible. Now you might say, oh my God, like my blood sugar meter, is it accurate enough? So I like to do this strategy, and I'll show a video where, let's talk about measurements in general. Increasing precision with multiple measurements. Generally speaking, if you've ever been in a physics lab or anything like that, whenever you do a measurement, you know that your tool is not the most precise thing in the world. Like even the best tools have some imprecision. So the way you can make up for this is doing multiple measurements. Now this is slightly controversial in the community, but I actually do multiple measurements every time I test. I'll do, not every time, anytime. Sometimes I'll take random numbers just to see where it's at out of curiosity. But these are numbers I'm not using to make decisions. If I'm actually trying to make a decision, I will actually take 2 to 3 measurements to see where it's at.
So here you can see me setting up 3 strips ready to go. And then I typically just poke once and then squeeze out a good amount of blood. You don't have to squeeze out that much. I just squeeze out more than normal just to make sure I have enough blood, and also to just try to dilute anything that might be like dirt or whatnot on my finger. I always wash my hands ahead of time, but I just do that. So I'll get each value. I have a trash can nearby, so I chuck it in the trash. And then I set up the new one, do the same thing. I'll just kind of squeeze out a little bit more blood. And I'll typically do somewhere between 2 to 3 measurements depending on what the results are. If I got 2 measurements that are almost the exact same, then I probably won't do a third, because from a mathematical standpoint, if I take a third value, it's not going to actually deviate much if the 2 first values are very close. And I'll show you in a second on the Excel sheet what that looks like. So anyways, got the gore fest blood everywhere, and just get the third measurement and go from there. So then here's me just showing the results of those 3 readings. I got an 88, an 88, and a 95. So 2 were exactly 88, and 1 was 95. And then if you use the Contour one, you can see the app, and it's really cool. You can see all your data pretty easily, and you can see the 88, the 88, and the 95, and some other values I took above it.
Okay, so here's a perfect example. This person said, do others get multiple readings? I tested a few times when I was hungry this morning and got 108, 106, then 98, and my trigger is 101, so I had a shake. This person was confused. So if you look at my own video, you'll see that I took 3 readings, and I got I believe a 95, an 88, and another 88. And so what I like to do is I take these and I average them, okay? So what I do is I average them. You can do this with a calculator. I'll do it in Excel or just with my calculator on my iPhone or whatnot. So I got a 95, an 88, and then an 88. And you see that my average blood sugar is about a 90.3, okay? And so I will actually input that into all my data because I like things to be a little bit more accurate, precise. So I'll do that, and I feel more comfortable. So let's understand this real quick. So let's say your true blood sugar was 100. and then you started taking numbers. If it was plus or minus 10%, let's say you did one value that was, 103, and your next value was 95, okay? Which is entirely possible because plus or minus 10% will be about plus or minus 10 points. So if you're 10 points above 100, you could go up to 110, or you could be as low as 90. So if you did these two measurements, if you got a 103 and 95, if you average them, you would get a 99. Let's say you got a 96, a 93, a 104, a 102, whatever. If you do, the more measurements you do, it'll be close, and it might not be perfectly accurate, but it's close enough for us to work. This is going to average to about 98.8, or basically 99. It's going to get you pretty close to your trigger. So, or not close to a trigger, but close to the actual measurement. Your trigger could be a 95 or an 80 or whatever your trigger is. This is the way I approach things like this. Okay, so the question then is, when are the CGMs beneficial and when are they not? So the question is really, the question mark is lows. So CGMs were made for diabetics, right? And lows are very dangerous for diabetics. So it's actually basically, if anything looks like a low, you basically want the diabetic to go ahead and check their blood sugar because it's really risky for them, okay? And then that's the recommendation, is to actually test their blood glucose afterwards. But if you look at these graphs, if we're trying to find our trigger, basically, and we know the inaccuracy, this could tell you to eat when you're not supposed to eat. I mean, it could be it could be almost 15 points above your actual trigger, and that's not ideal. So, on the other hand, the real time it's beneficial is this kind of guy. And I think I have another one that shows kind of the same thing. So basically, let's say you ate a meal that was a really big blood sugar spike. Okay, sometimes we don't need to know the specific value, right? So the accuracy of the meter doesn't need to be that specific just to see, like, if it was a 30-point rise or a 50-point rise, or maybe a 80-point rise in some people. Sometimes you don't need to know as specific the rise, other than just it spiked pretty hard from, say, a combination of a milkshake plus French fries or something, right? So the real benefit to the CGMs in the context of DDF is really just seeing your post-meal blood sugar spikes. Basically, how high did the blood sugar spike? That's really where the money is. As far as hitting your triggers, you kind of want to rely on the blood glucose testing at this time because it's just more accurate. Maybe in a few more years, when they get the Dexcom 7, 8, 9, whatever, it's going to be better and be more accurate. But one of the other problems, though, is this concept. People are asking where to get them, and I have some images. People are like, where do you even get these? The other problem is cost. So with the Dexcom, the cost is really high for the sensors. So I showed you the sensor I had before. So if you buy a sensor lasts 10 days, so you're going to need 3 for the month. A pack of 3 sensors is going to run you about $320 American dollars, or maybe more. Sometimes you can buy them from people reselling them on the internet. They'll sell them for like $260 or something. But that's like a pretty hefty chunk of money to drop every month. To get a prescription, you typically have to be a diabetic on multiple insulin injections per day and taking blood sugar multiple times per day. Most of us aren't doing that. That's to get insurance to cover it. So maybe the doctor tries to write your prescription because you want to have fun. Insurance denies it, and now you have to pay that. And, we'll see how it goes. But basically, I hope that kind of helps understand CGMs a little bit, when to use them. It's really to see your post-meal blood sugars. There's some other cool stuff you can do, and I'll talk about that more in the future. But really, the blood glucose monitors are still more accurate. If you really want if you're hitting your trigger, I recommend the blood glucose monitor instead. And if you're kind of confused by some of the numbers, sometimes taking multiple measurements can help. Because sometimes, you take one measurement and it is kind of off from that single measurement. But if you took multiple and averaged them, you would get a closer approximate of your true blood sugar. So hopefully that helps.